welcome to Exos Heroes Hero Spotlight. And today, the spotlight is shining on Garff, the fated paladin from Saint West. So today we're going to bring you a review of Garff and tell you a little bit about how we think Garff is best played in today's current meta. So Garff, looking at just a brief overview, he is a fated hero, defense position, so he's going to be in the front line, and he's a light element with an attack type of physical attack. So let's take a little look of the visuals.
Right, so I think first thing you'll notice when you look at Garff is he's got this very battle-hardened paladin kind of appearance, and this is really evident in his design with the armor. He's got the golden tassels on the big pauldrons, the wide chestplate. His weapon is a shield-lance combo, which I think speaks a lot to, the sort of knightly figure that he's supposed to be. Overall, I think they did a great job with him.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a very good-looking character. Very, very unique design. So, with that being said, let's take a look at his skill set and what he brings to the table.
Right, so Garff has a basic attack, a passive, and 2 active abilities. His basic attack does 435 to 522 damage, and it functions just as the other Exo Heroes' basic attacks. His active 1 is Eagle Blow, and this will deal 375% damage to one enemy. His active 2 is General's Call, which deals 420% damage to all back row enemies. His passive, which I believe is the most interesting part of his kit, has 3 components, the first being Protect 3, which grants share health to an ally with the lowest maximum health and heals that ally for 30% of Garff's current health at the beginning of the round. Now, because Garff has a bit lower speed, he won't be able to use this as much as you would imagine. It also allows him to gain 1 mana if his target is at less than 20% HP, and gain 1 mana if the target is at more than 70% HP. His second passive is Breath of Mana, which is very straightforward. All front row allies permanently gain 1 mana. His third passive is Command, which grants allies with lower maximum health than Garff the Command Mark, which increases defense and health by 20%. So now let's get into a bit of a discussion about combining all of these passives and actives together to see what Garff brings to the table and the utility he can offer your team.
Sure. I think Garff, at first glance, he is a very standalone, very straightforward champion. Right? He doesn't really require any synergies or any dependencies of another champion to utilize his full potential. He's someone that, any of us who can get him, especially in the early game, and insert him into our lineup and do a fantastic job at being a frontline, tanky, beefy champion. But at the same time, I think that lack of specialization also makes him fall off as we get into the end game. I think a lot of end game champions who has specializations in the Holy Dragon Ground or have specializations geared towards PvP content is going to perhaps be utilized a lot more than Garff. But I think as an early game to mid game carry, Garff definitely fulfills that position for most of us. Another interesting thing I want to point out is his passive, Protect 3. One thing unique about this is it kind of almost works as if it's a taunt. So what I mean by that is Garff heals through his Protect 3, and heals comes at about 30% of his current health. Meaning that if his current health is less, his heal is going to be less potent. But if his current health is high, which as a tanky champion he's naturally going to have pretty high health, his heal is going to be quite a bit. So that really plays, especially in a PvP setting, that's really going to put a lot of other players at an interesting place. Do they want to focus on Garff and try to take him down as early as possible so he doesn't heal as much? Or should they rather than focus on one of your squishier champions, but then run the risk of not killing that squishier champions and just end up having him or her getting healed back up to full health by Garff? So I think in that sense, it's very, very unique and very interesting skill.
Right, and you mentioned Protect 3, which is the first part of his passive. So I want to touch on his other 2 passives. Breath of Mana is really focused on having a frontline heavy team, so perhaps something like a 4-1 or a 3-2 split, and it allows allies to get abilities out faster. This is a lot more noticeable when your allies have low mana costs because you permanently gain 1, and that effect is much more significant with lower mana costs. And this combined with the command passive, which grants an ally with lower max health 20% increased health and defense, makes it so that Garff really wants to play with a lot of high HP units, a lot of high defense units, where they could benefit the most from this passive. And then when you have all of those beefy units together in the front line, taking advantage of his passive, spamming abilities, I think that there's a really unique element to this where it sort of plays into Garff's paladin and knight fantasy, right? As a player, if you are building a team around Garff, you're going to see him in the front lines, leading the vanguard, charging into battle. And I think that this is just a really cool way that the game developers have sort of combined the elements of gameplay with this knight fantasy and really have it come out in a very cohesive way. And so overall, Garff is a very solid hero. He works well in many comps and can be utilized efficiently throughout the game. He's definitely a good pickup for free-to-play players, and I would recommend building him if you manage to get him. If you have a different take on Garff, please let us know in the comments, and to see more reviews of Exo heroes, feel free to check out our other content. And if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys next time.